Yeah, let's start there, Denver. Let's start with what just happened yesterday with Jimmy Kimmel, who is a longtime late night talk show host, is a comedian, I guess you would call him, and he was suspended by ABC for having some observations, saying some facts, some fact-based observations about the news and what's happening in our country. And I'll just kick it over to you, Denver, and give me your thoughts, and then I'll kind of try to tell you what mine are and what I think is happening.
Yeah, I think the Epstein files must be really bad. I mean, that's the first thing. I always want to say that. But when you look at Jimmy Kimmel and what happened there, people want to talk about this false equivalency. You have a bunch of MAG individuals talking about people that were taken off the air that saying that, that J6 was an inside job or COVID was fake. But the difference in this, when you have Jimmy Kimmel alluding to the fact that the shooter could be right wing, and when you listen to the comments, he actually doesn't come right out and say it, which is interesting. And you have saying, well, all these other people got taken off the air. My thoughts are this simply, and I'm going to roll fast because I don't think this is very complicated. Nexstar wants a merger and they need FCC approval. They capitulated again. We have oligarchs capitulating to make sure that they have these massive deals. Secondly, Brendan Carr of the FCC knows that it exceeds the mandate or the law of only 39% of households cannot be more than 39% of households cannot be reached by a specific television provider. That's to help with stopping with the actual arbitrary sort of conglomeration of opinions and ideas where you have one TV station controlling outputs. The FCC is thinking
Mhm.
about actually doing away with that.
You summarized it pretty well. Let me slow it down a little bit because there's a lot you just threw at people. The FCC is a government agency, and obviously we have the Trump administration right now, and the head of that is a Trump appointee. When Jimmy Kimmel said whatever he said on late night, which didn't appear to be to me to be terrible words. He is a comedian, and people make and say lots of things in America. We have this thing called free speech, right? First Amendment. We lots of people say lots of things, and the FEC head denounced Kimmel and suggested that he be suspended. So he suggested to ABC that they suspend him and suggested to the local broadcasters who you mentioned, Nexstar, Sinclair, these local broadcasting companies, that they suspend Jimmy Kimmel. And so, and you also brought this up that Nexstar is trying to merge with another. They're in the process of over $1 billion, I think $6 billion
Six
deal.
point two billion, and I think it's
Thank you.
Tegna.
with
Yes.
with a merger with another company, and they need folks to do that merger. They need FCC and FTC, that's the Federal Trade Commission, and the FCC, that's the Federal Communications Commission. They need their approval for that merger. And so what those companies are seeing is, under the Trump administration, they're going to weaponize, they're already weaponizing the government, okay, and to do what we want you to do, fire who we want you to fire, do not talk about what we want you to not talk about, in order for you to have these mergers, in order for you to continue with your business the way that you want to continue. And so that's what we're seeing right now. We're seeing the media being weaponized, being almost taken over by federal government, because they're telling the media companies what to do here. And so they're using government to go after First Amendment speech. And that's bad. And it's kind of happening right in front of us.
The other difference, when the great thing about the ignorant is the use of false equivalencies. And when they talk about people being fired for deliberately lying or misleading people from a specific organization or group, what didn't happen was the Biden administration saying that they were going to pull FCC licenses. Brendan Carr threatened ABC with pulling their FCC license over Jimmy Kimmel, and they capitulated. And the reason ABC capitulated is because they're large stations who are also probably run by, I would say, oligarchs that are just greedy. They capitulated because of the FCC merger. So what you're saying is the government levers outside of any type of American constitutional way, right? We talk about American constitutionalists talking about getting rid of the Fed, right, Amy? Well, why the hell do we have the FCC? So if we want to go down that route, I'm happy to have that intellectual discussion with anybody. Why do you have anything? Why do you have any regulatory agency? If you can't, so now we have people who talk about freedom, picking and choosing which one they want to do. The other thing too is we didn't see Brendan Carr threatening Fox News over Kilmeade, saying that the homeless should literally be killed involuntarily. I'm to a point that, Amy, I don't know if I've ever been more pessimistic, but it also does help to see the battlefield, right? To clearly see what's happening. And I think that gives clarity on what needs to be done. And I will say that right now, and I've never said this in my life, that the 2026 elections may be the most important elections in my lifetime. And that's simply a midterm congressional push to see what happens. And if the Republicans keep the House based on gerrymandering or shenanigans or suppression of the vote, or disenfranchisement, or having ICE monitor lines, or trying to get rid of electric voting or electronic voting or mail-in ballots, I'm really, at that point, we have to look at the people who actually love freedom as being the resistance in this country.